Chuck Connors tortured himself with guilt before cancer destroyed his body. Chuck Connors was born Kevin Joseph Aloysius Connors on April 10, 1921, in Brooklyn, New York, was a man of many talents and an unforgettable figure in American pop culture. Best known for his starring role as Lucas McCain in the hit television series The Rifleman, Connors' career spanned several fields, from sports to acting, all marked by his towering 6 feet 6 inches frame, commanding presence, and rugged charisma. His journey from a humble background to becoming a prominent figure in both professional athletics and Hollywood is a testament to his versatility, work ethic, and relentless determination. Connors was born to working-class parents of Irish descent. Raised in a devout Catholic family in Brooklyn during the Great Depression, young Connors showed an early interest in sports, a passion that would follow him throughout his life. His tall, athletic build made him a natural athlete, and he excelled in basketball and baseball during his high school years at Adelphi Academy. After graduating, he earned a scholarship to Seton Hall University, where he played both basketball and baseball, a rare accomplishment that highlighted his extraordinary athletic abilities. During World War II, Connors served in the United States Army as a tank instructor at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and later at West Point, New York. After the war, he pursued a career in professional sports, and his transition into athletics began when he was signed by the Brooklyn Dodgers, though he would later achieve more success in other leagues. He played briefly in Major League Baseball with both the Brooklyn Dodgers and Chicago Cubs but found his real niche in basketball. Connors was one of the first players to be drafted into the newly formed NBA, playing for the Boston Celtics in the 1946-1947 season. Despite his passion for sports, Connors' career as a professional athlete wasn't as long or distinguished as one might expect for someone of his talents. Nevertheless, his love of performance eventually led him to a new calling, acting. A natural performer with his commanding presence, Connors decided to pursue a career in Hollywood. Chuck Connors' transition from sports to acting was remarkably successful. After gaining small parts in television shows and films in the early 1950s, his big break came when he was cast in the role of Lucas McCain in The Rifleman, 1958–1963. A role that would forever cement his place in television history. The Western series, set in the late 19th century, featured Connors as a widowed rancher who used his customized Winchester rifle to uphold justice while raising his young son, Mark, played by Johnny Crawford. Connors' portrayal of the stoic yet compassionate Lucas McCain struck a chord with audiences, and the show became a massive hit, running for 5 seasons and earning critical acclaim for its heartwarming father-son dynamic and thrilling action sequences. McCain's character was one of the earliest portrayals of a single father on television, and Connors' nuanced performance gave the role depth and humanity. Though McCain was tough and skilled with a rifle, he was also portrayed as a loving and moral father who taught his son life lessons about integrity, honesty, and respect. This combination of toughness and tenderness made Connors a household name, and the show became a staple of American television in the late 1950s and early 1960s. Connors' success in The Rifleman opened doors for him in Hollywood, and he went on to appear in numerous films and television shows throughout the 1960s, 1970s, and 1980s. Some of his notable film roles included Geronimo, 1962, Flipper, 1963, and Soylent Green, 1973, where he played a dystopian enforcer alongside Charlton Heston. Connors was often cast in westerns and action films, genres that perfectly suited his strong, rugged demeanor. Though he never reached the same level of stardom as other western icons like John Wayne or Clint Eastwood, his enduring popularity as Lucas McCain earned him a special place in the hearts of western fans. Beyond acting, Chuck Connors explored other facets of the entertainment industry. He worked as a producer on several projects and was involved in creating and developing television series. His knowledge of the industry and ability to connect with audiences allowed him to maintain relevance even as the entertainment landscape changed. Connors was also deeply committed to charity and philanthropic efforts. He was known for his generosity and for giving back to his community, particularly in supporting underprivileged youth and veterans, causes that were close to his heart due to his own experiences growing up in poverty and serving in the military. He regularly participated in celebrity charity events and was admired for his commitment to improving the lives of others. Politically, Connors was a staunch conservative and supported several Republican candidates throughout his life. He was a close friend of President Ronald Reagan and often campaigned for him during his presidential bids in the 1980s. Connors' conservative views were well known, but he remained respected by his colleagues and fans for his integrity and willingness to stand up for his beliefs. Chuck Connors was not only known for his iconic roles in television and film but also for the inner turmoil that plagued him throughout his life, especially as he approached the final chapter marked by his battle with cancer. Despite his success, Connors carried a deep sense of guilt stemming from the dissolution of his first marriage, which haunted him until his death. Connors' first marriage to Elizabeth Jane Riddell Connors began like a dream. They met at one of Connors' baseball games in the late 1940s, a time when he was pursuing a career in professional sports before fully transitioning into acting. They married on October 1, 1948. A time when Connors was still balancing his budding career as a professional athlete with his personal life. Together, they had 4 sons, Michael, Jeffrey, Stephen, and Kevin, whom Connors adored. Despite his love for his family, Connors' ambition and relentless pursuit of a Hollywood career strained his relationship with Elizabeth. The couple's divorce in 1961 was a turning point in Connors' personal life, and it left him with a profound sense of guilt. His career was skyrocketing, but the split affected his children, particularly the stability and guidance he could have provided as a father. As his acting career took off, especially with the success of The Rifleman, Connors began to realize the cost of fame. His guilt was rooted in his belief that he had failed his family, and that belief tormented him throughout his life. The loss of a traditional family structure, particularly during the formative years of his children's lives, weighed heavily on Connors, and it became a wound that never fully healed. In 1963, Connors married Indian actress Kamala Devi, a year after they co-starred in the film Geronimo. Their relationship seemed hopeful at the start. Kamala became not just his wife but a frequent collaborator, working with Connors in several television projects, including Branded and Cowboy in Africa. Connors appeared to have found companionship again, but the marriage was not without its challenges. Despite the creative partnership they shared, they divorced in 1973 after 10 years of marriage. Connors was again left feeling like he had failed in his personal life, unable to sustain another marriage. The dissolution of his second marriage compounded the guilt from his first, reinforcing the belief that he struggled to maintain long-term relationships due to the demands of his career. While his professional life flourished, Connors couldn't shake the sense that his personal failures were catching up to him. In 1977, Connors married for the third time, this time to actress Faith Quabius, whom he had met while working on the dystopian film Soylent Green in 1973. Their marriage, however, was short-lived, ending in divorce just 2 years later, in 1979. By this point, Connors was in his late 50s, and his third failed marriage further contributed to his sense of guilt and regret. Each of these marriages ended in disappointment, leaving Connors feeling emotionally and mentally exhausted. He had achieved considerable fame, but the price was his personal happiness and stability. Connors' guilt over the collapse of his marriages, especially his first, deepened as his health began to deteriorate in the 1980s. The once vigorous actor, known for his athletic physique, began to experience the ravages of age and illness. Connors was an avid smoker for many years, a habit that likely contributed to the lung cancer that would ultimately claim his life. As his condition worsened, Connors had more time to reflect on his life choices, and the feelings of guilt that had lingered for decades came to the forefront. He felt he had not been the father or husband he could have been, particularly to his sons from his first marriage, who suffered the most from his long absences and career-driven focus. On July 18, 1984, Chuck Connors was honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. This should have been a celebratory moment in his life, as over 200 close friends, family, and colleagues attended the ceremony, including his co-star Johnny Crawford from The Rifleman. However, even as he stood on that stage accepting accolades for his work, Connors was privately grappling with the weight of his past decisions. The joy of recognition was tempered by his awareness of the personal costs his career had exacted. In the years leading up to his death, Connor's battle with lung cancer was brutal. The disease ravaged his body, and as his health declined, the mental burden of his past grew heavier. He could not escape the regrets about his failed marriages, particularly his first with Elizabeth, and how it affected his relationship with his sons. The actor was reported to have expressed sorrow about the time he had missed with his children, and how his relentless pursuit of fame had come at the expense of his family life. Chuck Connors died on November 10, 1992, at the age of 71, succumbing to lung cancer at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. His death marked the end of a complex life. A man who had been an iconic figure on screen but was tormented by personal demons behind the scenes. His guilt over the broken family ties, especially the impact of his first divorce on his sons, never left him. Connors' legacy remains that of a talented actor, but his personal story is a tragic reflection of the sacrifices many in Hollywood make for success. In his final years, Connors realized that fame and accolades could not make up for the lost moments with his children and the marriages that crumbled under the weight of his career. The regret and guilt stayed with him until his last breath, as cancer destroyed not just his body but, in many ways, was symbolic of the emotional torment he had been carrying for decades.